Hey guys, check it out. A box has arrived, and this may have the best home Bitcoin miner in it, the Canaan Avalon Q. Now, before anyone gets their panties in a bunch, what makes a home miner? One, obviously it has to be the price. Two, does it work on 120 as well as 240 volt, which means it has to be under an X amount of power to even run on a 120 volt circuit, as well as having the power supply support at least 110 to 120 volts. And three, is it efficient? You know, all three things kind of got to correlate to make a home miner. And number four technically should be there as well, and that is this quiet? Let me know if there's other things you consider as a home miner, but we're going to find out. Is this the best home miner for Bitcoin?
You're already mining and looking to scale, but keep hitting local limits? Or are you a beginner who wants to get into crypto mining but never took the first step? It always seemed too complicated: hardware, electricity, setup. EMCD Top 10 Mining Pool offers a turnkey mining farm. Start earning within 48 hours. Everything is set up in a professional data center. Hardware, hosting, maintenance, and setup. You get full zero pool fees and full remote control. Look how it looks. Here's the dashboard: mine Bitcoins, forecast of earnings, payouts, all in one place. Switch between 1, 7, 30 days. Check stats and earnings instantly. In workers, your live and 24-hour hash rate numbers are available. In rewards, we have total earnings. In sum, everything is crystal clear, no guessing. Mining farms are already operating in regions with low electricity rates, from 6 cents per kilowatt hour in Asia and Africa, and you can get started for just $3,990 and quick payback from 6 months ROI based on the current market conditions. EMCD is top 10 in the mining pool world, 400,000 plus users, 12 plus Bitcoin mined daily. I've worked with them in the past. It's not my first time. Trusted them for quite some time. Links in the description. Check them out.
All right, so I was just going to put this together, fire it up, and do some testing and whatnot, but I figure I should showcase Canaan's packaging because they're probably one of the best at it. So as we can see coming into here, right here, you can see this does say Wi-Fi receiver, so that's in there. I'm just going to leave it in there and not even touch it. I just plan on using a LAN cable here. It always recommended to use LAN over Wi-Fi if you have a choice. Here we do have the anti-slip feet. I'm just going to leave that in here because I'm going to be putting it on my floor. Here we have the Canaan Avalon Q booklet for all the stuff you need to know about it. Here is a connect to your pool. So it's like a pool card here. I see if I can get this open with one hand. It's going to be kind of difficult. Hold on, I'm not going to be able to do it. Oh wait, maybe. So this is a start your journey, and at the back it's the link up to F2 pool and stuff. F2 pool, I'm not going to be utilizing. Underneath all of that, we have our power cable inside of this box right here. Look how everything is nicely neat and organized. You know, absolutely amazing packaging from Canaan. All right, so just to have a look at the power plug here, this is a C19 plug. It plugs into a C20. Always remember the higher number and even number is the male end, and of course this is the female end, the C19. And this is to your standard wall power. So C19 is for a lot higher power rating here. So, you know, depending on how you got to run this, I do believe default it's around a little over 1650 watts. We will be testing that, but that means if you're running this on 120 volt, you're going to need at least a 20 amp breaker, as 15 amp is going to be too low. All right, so let's just give you a quick guide into understanding power right quick. So we're going to look at a 15 amp breaker for 120 volts. So we're going to go 15 times 120, and as you can see, that is 1800 watts peak. So that is the maximum that you could be able to go up to, but it is not recommended to run anything at the maximum. Your lines are going to heat up, you're going to start using more power, eventually you'll probably blow a breaker or something. So it's recommended to run at your 80%. So on a 15 amp 120 volt breaker, it's recommended for 24-hour power about 1440 watts. Now let's do the 20 amps, which is what I said you should be running with this machine here. So we're going to go 20 amps times 120. That does equal 2400 for your maximum peak rating there, and we're going to times this for your 24-hour that you can run 24/7, 1,920 watts, 1920. So if this uses around 1,600 to 1,700 watts, we are below 1920, which is safe to run 24 hours a day, which is why I recommend a 20 amp 120 volt breaker if that's what you plan on running this on in terms of voltages. All right, so here is the Avalon Q in a nutshell. And one thing I do notice right off the get-go is I wish they would have put, here's your USB for the Wi-Fi stick to put in if you plan that, and here's for your Ethernet LAN cable. I wish these two here were in the back. That way we only had like your reset and IP and whatever this ends up being in the front only, and we wouldn't have to run any wires, and it would be nice and clean. But overall, everything is actually looking pretty nice for this Bitcoin miner. Here's the front side of it. I got it propped up on my bricks here. These are two Goldshell miners. I'm not sure what they are, but they're now used as jack stands to prop up Bitcoin miners. So that's the new use for Goldshell miners here. And coming into the backside, it looks like they left this miner on from testing, so make sure we shut that off. So whoever was testing this miner, it kind of veered off into right field there for focusing, don't know why, but make sure yours is turned off before you plug it in or anything. There's our C20 plug right here, which will plug into a C19 female. And then overall, we got our fans and everything hanging out on the backside right here. So it looks like a pretty slick, nice little box type of miner. It almost looks like a mini PC case. If this thing would focus, it's really hard to focus on, really black items. So the light's not even helping too much. But in a nutshell, you can see what this thing is looking like. All right, so there's multiple ways I believe to set this up. One, the primary is the Canaan Avalon app. But when I do log into the IP, it is giving us a QR code to scan. So I'm actually going to scan this and see if I can do everything through my browser dashboard, because that's the way I prefer to do most things anyway. So when I do scan the QR code there, this pops up and it says, try to press the button on the device until it shows the IP address and type down the IP address below. I don't think I have to go to the machine and actually do that, because it'll probably show my IP4 address, which is found up in the corner right there. So I'm going to try typing this in, and it should be the one. Yep, and it worked, as it should. So next up, nothing happened on the screen. It's still saying that. So maybe we do have to do everything within the app itself, and it's kind of being a pain to focus here. All right, so I actually just refreshed my page and voila, this popped up. So I'm going to go with root for the password and see if that did not work. All right, so I'm going to try admin for the password, and that works. So the password is admin. So here we have working modes, and I don't want to save any of this stuff here. So latest reload, we got reboot, our firmware version, all sorts of stuff. So now we got to set up our pools and everything. So where the heck is that? Maybe we can't. Oh, pool config right here. All right, so we're going to set up a pool config here. So I'm going to start with my home Bitcoin node. So we're going to see if we can connect to my pool. Now with the Canaan Nano 3S's and stuff, you have to connect to the IP4. Let's see if that does work. So I'm just going to start with the default Umbrel.local here. We're solo mining Bitcoin to our own node here. So I'm just going to plug this in and see if it will work. So put in our stratum here. Worker here, I am going to go with my Bitcoin address, but we're going to name this Avalon Q. So I'm going to go Avalon Q like so. Password, I guess I'll just go with an X in this case. And let's submit that and see if it works. After updating the mining pool, the device needs to be restarted for the changes to take effect. Okay, let's see if this works. If it doesn't work, obviously, just like the Nano S's from Canaan, we will have to go with using our IP4 IP address. All right, so it doesn't look like that is working. So I'm going to have to try the IP address and see if that works. I'm just going to come into my pool config and I'm just going to change this to this. Now, I don't know if I need the TCP or anything there, but I'm just going to put in the address here and keep the same port. So I'm going to submit that. And this should work based on what we had to do with Canaan's Nano S's. This may be different and might not work at all, but we're about to find out. All right, so that does not seem to work. It looks like an Umbrel node it will not mine to. So that kind of sucks. So we're going to go into pool config here, and we're just going to go set this to CK pool. I'm just going to put that in. Oh, we need that other thing. So let's just go back. I messed up.
pool config, we're going to get rid of this. We do need the stratum plus TCP. If you remove it, it says please add it. And then we need port 1234. I'm going to remain the BTC address. Yep, Avalon Q, and then X, submit that. Take a few minutes. We're going to restart it, and now we should be up and running. But sadly, it looks like to my own Umbrel node, this miner does not work. At least currently, maybe there'll be a firmware update, and it may work in the future. All right, guys, so I got some numbers kind of lined up for us, and the price that I'm using is $18.99. You can see it for less in quite a few other places, but this is coming in from Miner Bros, and Miner Bros does use shipping in their prices. Remember, a lot of places you might have to tack on $100 to $300 depending where you're ordering from. So this is with shipping included into the price already, which usually saves you quite a bit.
All right, so before we actually look at the power, let's take a look at the noise. As the power, as this thing is slowly heating up, it starts to draw more and more power. It was at about 1,580 watts, and I slowly watched it creep up to 1,650, and it's still creeping up. So we're going to hold up and let that do its thing for a while, but this thing is quieter than a jazz miner. I am really surprised at how quiet this thing is. So, just from, taking my word for it, this thing is quieter than a jazz miner, so it definitely ticks the box for a home miner as being silent. Like, this thing is more silent than one of these bit axes right here. Now, the reason being is because this is such a small fan, you can actually hear it spinning away with a small high-pitched buzz. But with this thing, there's like zero noise coming out of it whatsoever. So we can see about 58 decibels, and then as soon as I start opening up my yapper, we shoot out to about 70, 72. So this thing is extremely quiet comparing to just normal talking. There's the backside of where the actual air is blowing into it. You can hear a slight hum of like some airflow, but that's about it. And it's only like a decibel more than the front side. If you guys haven't yet, be sure to hit that subscribe button as well. If you're looking for any type of crypto miner, links down in the description with discount codes so that you can get them a little bit cheaper. Go through some quick numbers here. So the Canaan Q in high performance mode, I got about 92 terahash. I was using 1,701 watts at the wall, and that works out to be gigahash per watt of 54.08. And again, $18.99 with shipping. That works out to be $20.64 per terahash, making this fairly expensive, which, depending on your home miner needs, yes, this is silent, but is it worth that extra cost and a little lower efficiency versus something like the S21 Plus, which is a more efficient machine? It's coming in at 65.93 gigahash per watt, and it's coming in at only $16.76 per terahash here, giving you 235 terahash. But ultimately, this is also a louder machine, and it's using quite a bit more power, which will require 240 volt. But when it comes dollar to dollar, obviously the S21 Plus is the way better buy. But obviously, this is a nice silent miner, doesn't make any noise, coming in at a lot cheaper, over 50% less, which obviously most home miners don't have huge bankrolls to be spending $4,000 on a miner here. But coming in, we take a look at some further numbers. On medium, we're getting 79.47 terahash at 1,384 watts at the wall. That is 57.42 gigahash per watt, which obviously would raise our price per terahash because we're getting less hash rate to 23.89. Now, sadly, I didn't do the rest here. Maybe I should have, but you see the trend here. As you lose hash rate and gain efficiency, your price goes up per terahash here. But now coming into eco mode, which was very interesting. On 240 volt eco mode, I was seeing 53.33 terahash, the same as eco mode 120, but the power was different. At the wall, we're using less
power on 240 volt than we were on 120. Usually you don't see this, but in this case I did. So I don't know what's going on here, but for 240 volt it was 844 watts, and on 120 volt we were actually almost 900 watts at 899. And here we can see 63.18 gigahash per watt is our most efficient here. The eco mode is obviously our next efficient setting on 120 volt, but it was slightly less than the 240 volt here. But still, even our best efficiency setting is still less than Bitmain's S21 Plus. But that is pretty close to the S21 Plus's efficiency, putting them pretty close and possibly checking that checkbox for good efficiency. That is if you do have 240 volt as a home miner, which most of us do these days. Now, if you are curious what this can even mine, you can mine any SHA-256 coin. That is Bitcoin, Bitcoin Cash, Bitcoin SV, all these coins, not this one with the M in it, but you can mine Fractal Bitcoin. I believe this is merged mined alongside Bitcoin now, depending on the pool that you use. So you're actually mining two coins at once, but you can mine any of these other coins that are in here. And there's pages and pages of SHA-256 coins. All it depends on is the algorithm, and it can do it all when it comes to these coins. So you have a lot of options with this miner also other than Bitcoin. But obviously, if you're buying a Bitcoin miner, you're most likely probably mining Bitcoin or Bitcoin Cash. One of the two seem to be the most popular options. All right, guys, so that pretty much does wrap this up. This is probably the best home Bitcoin miner out there currently available on the market. Links will be in the description, as well as discount codes if you are looking for any miner, especially this one right here. But yeah, I do believe this is probably the best Bitcoin home miner. But obviously, if you have 240 volt, noise and stuff is not an issue, and you're obviously a home miner like myself and other people who do have, big, large mining rooms dedicated for mining, you're probably going to go with something like an S21 Plus. But if you are in an apartment, you can definitely throw this on, depending on your breaker, 15 to 20 amp, which we saw earlier. You could slap this into eco mode, or if you got that 20 amp, you can definitely throw this on the high powered mode or even medium mode and not have to worry about your breaker panels. And it is dead silent. Apartments will be a-okay with this thing. You won't get any noise complaints. And that is the biggest thing of home miners, is definitely not very loud and next to pretty much near silent. Now, I don't even know if my decimal meter goes down to 43 decibels, but I can guarantee you guys cannot hear this thing. So I don't even know why it was saying, I believe it's quieter than what my decibel meter was even showing you guys. But yeah, dead silence coming out of this thing, no noise whatsoever. And if you're familiar with a Jazz miner for ETH hash, this thing is quieter than a Jazz miner, which is insane to say. Now, if there's anything else you would like to know about this miner, let me know down in the comment section. I think I covered most of the stuff you need to know, but if you want to know how to set it up or anything like that, it is pretty easy. I'm sure everyone knows how to do that at this point, especially with all the Nano 3Ss and, the bid axes and everything out there. Everything is pretty much exactly the same thing. But let me know if you do need help with anything, and I'll definitely help you out. I'll see you on the next one. Hit that subscribe button. Share this video all around so other people can witness Rabid mining. We are surging on to 100,000 subscribers. We're about 11,000 short. So let's hit the moon, guys, in this 2025 crypto cycle. I'll see you on the next one. Rabid out.